Hey guys, today we're going down to the Jerusalem Hills to meet with David Ross, the founder of Shalva tea, where we get our tea from. He's going to take us around, show us some of the herbs that he uses, and we're going to have a lot of fun while we're down there. Who knows, we might even make a cup of tea. So let's go. Right.
This is Sumac. This is what they use for Sumac Spice. It's actually sort of the powder that's around these seeds is what's used for the spice.
Really?
If you take a little pinch of it and just put it in your mouth.
So it's these little pods?
Mm-hmm. You can't really chew it so much because it's a hard seed. But if you put it in your mouth and just kind of suck on it, it has like a sour taste. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a sweet tart. We can just sort of harvest some of this right now, and then we'll have like a funky tea later of whatever's in season right now. Over here, there's some fennel. You guys probably know fennel. I don't know how much these flavors will go together, but we'll try.
It's in season.
It's in season, so this is in-season tea. Yeah, that might be
That's really good.
Yeah, it's amazing how strong these flavors are. You know, you kind of think that like being in the sun all year would kind of maybe even dull it a little bit, but I think it just makes the natural oils that much stronger. There's like less water and more oil.
So did you learn a lot of this in school when you were doing the forestry? Or
Yeah.
Is there something you...
I took some herbalist classes on the side. I did a lot of plant identification when I was in school in the Northeast. I went to Ithaca College for undergrad and Yale forestry. So in both programs, there was a lot of field component. So I'm pretty comfortable with plant identification, in particular there. Here I'm always learning more. As far as other herbs right now, I mean, there's also just the olive leaf. I mean, it's really like a wonder plant that doesn't really get enough credit, in my opinion. But it also has like a really nice, robust flavor that somehow is reminiscent of green tea, like from China.
Really?
It has a similar kind of like a almost bitterness. There's like oh, here's some za'atar.
Oh,
Okay. All right, we got lucky here today, folks. Got a little za'atar, or hyssop is the official term. You've probably heard of za'atar as in the spice mix. So
right.
Za'atar is the Arab word for this plant, which in English is hyssop and in Hebrew is ezov.
Ezov?
Ezov. And essentially, that spice mix, this is the main ingredient of it, but they dry these leaves and then mix it with olive oil and a little sumac, actually, which we just had, and salt, and that's your za'atar mix.
Okay.
But just hyssop or ezov by itself is really good in a tea, and it has also antibacterial properties. It's in my sort of immune boost blend, the Carmel blend. There you go.
Oh, there's little berries right there.
You know, when there's red berries in nature that you don't know,
Leave them alone.
leave them alone. Yeah. I don't know what those guys say. Kind of like a mini stone. Stonehenge project. Would this be a good place to like? There's enough room for like one or two people to sit here. We could maybe like just boil the water here and
Yeah. Do it from this side.
Perfect.
yeah. Is this
Do
good?
the interview.
That's just amazing because just walking up here on the mountain and you're just walking through and you're picking different plants.
Yeah,
pointing them out.
I'm basically. That's what I've always done, and that's kind of how I got into it. Because when I first came to Israel in 2011, I came for 2 months to do a research project in the Carmel forest.
Was that your first time here?
I was here the first time I was ever here, I was 16 years old.
Okay.
It was on like a 2-month program. It was called High School in Israel.
Okay.
It was sort of like a very Zionistic program, helping, helping Jewish kids who grew up mostly in America to connect to the land. And that sort of was the first spark for me. I had grown up sort of Reformed, conservative, Jewish, not really keeping Shabbat, we kept kosher more or less in the house, but in a sort of kosher light way. We didn't have 2 sets of dishes, but we also didn't eat cheeseburgers or pepperoni pizza or crabs or shrimp.
I'm gonna have to remember that kosher light.
Kosher light. That's my term. You can use it if you want. But so obviously there's a whole different standard.
Right.
But I didn't know about that standard actually until I came here. So I was here when I was 16 and kind of planted the seed of a sort of Zionism or a connection to Israel. Oh, look, behind you here you have an almond tree. See all these almonds?
Oh, wow.
You can also see if they're good. It seems like some trees are really bitter, like the almonds themselves are really bitter. You can crush it.
Oh, wow.
Here. Yeah. You just sort of give it a little crush. And like maybe crush it too hard. And it's either going to be bitter or like taste similar to an almond that you would buy.
Tastes almonds, not bitter at all.
Yeah?
Not bitter at all.
There you go. We can just keep eating this throughout the interview if you want. Okay, so this is like a hobby of mine. So being here and with this business, it kind of combined like a hobby and connection to the land and everything. I mean, I just like to walk around outside in my free time. And I also like to eat things and I like to not spend money. And so it's like, okay, I can kind of do all those things at once and find out what I can eat from the land and what's healing to eat from the land and what's filling to eat from the land. So I took this survivalist course here in Israel a few years ago. It was a year-long course where we learned different skills throughout the year. And a big focus was on identifying and preparing local plants. We basically and our final sort of exam was essentially like a 3-day in the middle of summer, hottest days of the year. Okay, just go out and survive. Wow. So, there wasn't that much to eat at the time, but there was a ton of carobs. There was nettle seeds, which taste almost like tahini seeds. And there was like, a little bit here and there, like we kind of scrounged it together. But with carob, you can chop it up real fine and then boil it. And then actually the carob seeds, you can make a kind of a porridge out of them if you boil them for a long time. So I was learning all this kind of stuff. It's fun to do. And again, it's like a connection to the land. So this kind of thing, this is how I really started with the idea of the tea company, because I was here in Israel doing research in forestry, and part of that was to kind of go out into the Carmel forest. I had these randomly assigned GPS points. I had hundreds of them that I had to get to in order for the signs to be, according to like statistics protocols, you have to have randomly assigned points. You can't just say, oh, this is near where I can park my car, so I'm going to measure the trees here. No, you have to do it throughout the forest. You have to go. So a lot of that involved just bushwhacking, and in the process, I started to like learn these new plants that were around me, and that's kind of what started the idea. Because then I'd bring them home, I'd make tea out of them. So the idea then started like percolating. As the tea here is percolating. The idea was brewing. And I went back to finish my second year of forestry school, essentially.
Now that was at
Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, which they just changed their name to the Yale School of Environment. And I was studying kind of like tropical forest conservation, but I had this drive to spend more time in Israel. So instead of going to the Amazon in the summer between my first and second year, I came and tried to figure out what kind of forestry project could be relevant for my studies in Israel. And because I was interested in forest conservation, I was also looking at the damage to forests by wildfires and how to prevent wildfires through better forest management. Anyway, long story short, I finished up my studies and I had a desire to come back to Israel. So I applied for a Fulbright scholarship to continue some of that research and have some new ideas tacked onto that. And I came here in 2013 for about 9 months. By the end of that time, I was convinced that I wanted to live here. So I moved back to the States, tied up some loose ends, and finally made Aliyah in July of 2014. So yeah, that's how I got here. And I remember when I was moving here, they said, the sort of immigration absorption program, they said, what are you going to do when you get here? You know, they had sort of like a rubric. Basically, your options were like high tech, or you know, some kind of sciences, or
Computer programming.
Yeah, computer programming. That's kind of like the new hip thing. That's what a lot of new immigrants here are doing.
Right.
I said, well, I'm not so into the IT. I'm more into the tea. I'm going to be starting a tea company. And they're like, what do you mean you're going to start tea? No, that's not. We don't have that on the form. Like, I don't know. I don't think you're going to succeed. And I said, listen, I think if I try hard enough, I will succeed.
Yeah.
That was really, and I'd never started a business before. I had always sort of had, I would say, a business mind, and you know, I did all kinds of side hustles when I was growing up, and you know, I was young enough. I didn't have a wife or children, so I could take some risks. And that was 6 years ago. Still without wife and children, but I'll say that the risks of starting the business have been very fruitful.
Yes.
And it was definitely really hard in the first couple of years, and I struggled a lot. And you know, it was a new business for me, new business culture, a new language. I mean, just trying to like Google something to find a local supplier of whatever. Right. I mean, I couldn't do that. Or you know, I could find the letters in Google, but you know, you get hundreds of entries and it's all in Hebrew, and it's overwhelming. You know, so to just translate everything, it was like moving through molasses is kind of how my progress felt.
So even though you knew all the herbs and you could walk through and find them all.
Yeah, but it wasn't really economical to spend my days picking and running a business. So I had to find some farms to work with that were actually growing it, and sort of they're good at that, so I'll let them keep doing that. I came up with the recipes, and each of the blends is basically inspired by the local plants that grow in those areas. So I have the Arava blend, the Jerusalem blend, the Galil blend, the Carmel blend, the Ein Gedi, and the Ela Valley. Oh, I mentioned also when I came here, what I didn't mention was when I came here when I was 16. Then I came when I was in my late 20s. Before I came that summer to do the research, I came for 3 weeks on this like trip that was basically designed for undergrads, Jewish undergrads at Yale, to go and like explore. And there was like some yeshiva component and all kinds of stuff. I tagged on to that as you know, I was like 6 years older than everyone, but I wanted to come back to Israel. It was a subsidized trip, and I came a week earlier. And the rabbi who was at Yale that I'd been studying with, one of his best friends growing up was I believe Baruch.
Erstein, yes.
Yeah. Or it was Baruch's best friend that lived in Sfat. I don't remember actually now, but I stayed with them and I ate with Baruch, and I got to be good friends with Baruch and Batya. I became a big fan of Batya's cups, so I'm gonna represent her here. What's up, Batya? I really love this. This is done with a fig leaf here, and I saw that at one of the fairs we were both selling at, and I was like, I gotta buy it. I gotta buy it. So I got 2 of those here.
Yeah, they've become very, very good friends over the years.
Yeah, they're a really sweet couple. All right, so let's see. I'm usually pretty bad with proportions. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sons. And did you say you had that glass one?
Yeah, I have one right here.
Yeah, you get to see the color.
Oh yeah, let's see the color. Let's get some color. No promises on this tea. This is a brand new combination.
It's called the end season tea.
End the season tea. All right, I'm gonna start pouring small cups just so we'll get some.
This smells good. It's got a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
It's good. So what all's in here? We got the little bit of za'atar.
We got a little za'atar, a little
sumac.
olive leaf, some sumac, and some fennel seed. Here, a little more there. Here, steer for you up. All right, try not to swallow those down.
Yeah, what's your vision for the future? Where do you see Shalva tea going? And
So, where do I see it going from here? Well, right now, in addition to exporting, and you're sort of like the main folks that I'm selling to in the U.S. right now, I sell here in Israel in the health food stores, about 100 different stores, and then there was maybe another 30 or 40 tourist outlets that I was selling to, and those there hasn't been a tourist here since March, so none of those stores are really buying right now, which is fine. I think it'll pick back up. And while that's gone down, online sales have gone up, and also more and more stores are opening up. And now that it's about to be winter, I think sales are gonna pick back up again. So I see it going a little more mainstream here in Israel. I'd like to get into some of the bigger health food chains. Right now I'm in mostly the independent chains, but there's a few health food store chains that have maybe 10, 15 stores in each. Long-term vision, I see this becoming more of a household product here in Israel for people that are interested in spending a little more for a much higher quality tea.
so this isn't just a good tasting tea. There's a lot of medicinal properties. That's one of the things that you.
Yeah, and
really
luckily I can talk to you about
brought
it. I just can't advertise it in written form on the packaging. And so I don't. But if we're talking about it, I'm glad you asked. The Carmel blend is sort of the immune booster. In the wintertime, I drink the Carmel blend, if not on a daily, then like every other day basis. Put a little honey in there, and that's the one with the za'atar. So the za'atar is kind of strong, but with the honey, it becomes a really smooth tea that just kind of keeps your immune system boosted and tip-top. The Arava blend has some lavender in it. It's got a little bit of chamomile, a little bit of spearmint, and some licorice, so it's a sweeter blend. It's really good for the stomach, but basically it's like the calming blend. So if someone's having trouble sleeping, I usually point them towards the Arava blend. Yeah. The Ein Gedi one has a lot of the fennel seed, which we put a little bit of in this one. It's also got carob and dandelion green and sage. That one's really good for the stomach. So if anyone has like stomach issues, whether it's like poor bowel movements or gas or just like pain, or if they ate really greasy food and like their stomach's all churned up, after they had that second helping of fries at the end of the meal that they wish they hadn't had. So if I come home sometimes after like a night at a restaurant, I'll maybe have the Ein Gedi flavor because it's just like soothing for the stomach. The Ela Valley flavor has a lot of vitamin C in it. It's got the sumac. It also has rose hips in it and roses. It's also got licorice in it, which is really soothing. So I used to call it the soothing blend because folks that were starting to have a sore throat, it really just kind of lines the throat with this sort of almost like a thick lining. You can sense it going down your throat, and it's naturally sweet. So it's a really sweet. It's a naturally sweet blend. So people that like sweeter things, I generally point them in that direction. But also, I had a singer that would only drink that tea. Whenever she would go on stage, she would drink that tea an hour before, just to kind of like keep her vocal cords as loose as possible and just feeling good for singing. The Galil blend has a lot of olive leaf in it. It's also got sage and dandelion green and lemongrass. And that one is, it's like a cleansing blend, refreshing and cleansing. It's almost like a tonic. If you are a heavy drinker, that's a good one. I brought my car to the mechanic here one time, and he saw I had a bunch of boxes in the back. He said, "What are you schlepping around here?" I said, "Oh, I have a tea business." He's like, "All right, give me some. I want one of each." I said, all right. So I sold them, one of each, kind of brought down the bill a little bit. And next time I saw him, and I gave him I told him what each one is good for. When I told him that this one is good if you're drinking, he said, okay, I'm going to remember that one, because he was a drinker. Next time I saw him, he had just come back from a wedding, like a couple days before. He was like, man, you won't believe it. I came back like 8 a.m. from an all-nighter, a wedding, drank a lot, came in here, I could barely open my eyes. I had a killer headache. I put 2 or 3 of those tea bags in a cup of the Galil blend, drank only that for like the first half hour, just sat in my office calmly, and then I was good to go. He was like, my headache went away, I like started to focus again. And something about the way it works with the liver, it's just like a cleanser. So I guess he'd really he'd really taken some.
Need to capitalize for Purim on that.
Well, yeah,
You need to get
This should be the after Purim drink. Yeah, good call. But anyway, even if you're not a drinker, if you just have liver problems or you want to do like a spring cleanse or a tonic, it's a good one. And the Jerusalem blend is good for cholesterol.
We see behind us.
Yeah. So in the Jerusalem blend, there's also olive leaf. There's a bit of spearmint in there. There's hibiscus, which there's a kind of a hibiscus that grows here wild. It's not so common. And a little bit of sage as well. And I put in a little bit of cardamom. The cardamom is the one herb that is not native to Israel, but it was kind of on the spice route. So it's been here and it's been part of Israeli culture for, centuries, if not millennia.
Well, that's what you also put in the coffee.
That's what we put in the coffee as well. Yeah. So I kind of gave that one a pass because it's just like it's local here culturally.
Yes.
But you won't find too many cardamom trees around here. But there's just a little bit there to give it a little twist. I thought it was interesting. Definitely no one else is doing that.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I'll say, how long have we been working together now? Like 3 years?
About 3 years.
About 3 years,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, Blessed By has really been, you guys are my main outlet right now in the U.S., and so it's been a pleasure working with you. Right now, with COVID and everything, my sales here have dropped significantly in Israel because there's no more tourists here, and I was selling a lot of, tea in tourist outlets. And so as that's gone down, it's been nice to have reliable partners like Blessed By that even though you're not able to travel around in the US so much right now because of the lockdown regulations, you guys are still selling online and still putting it out there. And it's been really great to work with you and see how you're still getting it out to the people across America.
It's encouraging because we just got to let people know, you need to buy. You want to support Israel. You want to bless David and all the work he's done and the vision he has, and basically given his life to bring these herbs, bring this land, explore this land.
Yeah, it's one of my great pleasures to be able to do that, to work with the herbs that are really inspired from all parts of Israel and bring it to people across the world that can't come here so easily, that aren't able to go for a walk and pick herbs themselves. So we've sort of done that for you. It's called Shalva tea. Shalva in Hebrew is a term for sort of calmness and tranquility. This is a stressful time for a lot of people. It's stressful financially for a lot of people. A lot of people have family members that have been sick or have been sick themselves. And there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the world. I think everyone would agree with that. So Shalva tea, I believe, can just be a small part of pushing against that and just carving out, 10-15 minutes of your day for a nice warm cup of tea to just sort of like center and calm down and take some breaths and just know that everything is going to be okay, and it's better to come at the world in a more relaxed place and not to sort of get held up in the frenetic energy of everything that's going around you. Turn off the news, go outside, have some tea,
so actually,
feel the wind, listen
we
to
could
it.
actually bring peace to the world if everybody would just sit down and have a glass of Shalva tea every evening together.
I mean, if everybody in the world, yeah, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Let's go. We'll start with America and we'll see how we go from there. But yeah, I do believe in the product, and as you guys know, we have it both in tea bag form, but also in loose leaf. And loose leaf is sort of the What's great about loose leaf blends is you really get to see the herbs themselves. It's actually the same in the loose leaf and the tea bags. It's the same herbs themselves, but when it's a loose leaf, you get to see it. The colors are a little brighter. You see what herbs you're putting into your cup, so you have that more direct connection with the cup that you're drinking. It requires, filtering it, and it's more of like a bit of a tea ceremony you can make out of it. It's a little bit different than just putting a tea bag in your cup, but
It's closer to what we just did here.
yeah, that's essentially what we just did. I just sort of packaged it a little bit nicer and dried it so it got through customs. But yeah, I'd say onward and upward, and keep drinking tea.
I know when we first met, our first face-to-face was maybe 3 years ago, and after the meeting was over, I remember getting into the car and sitting with Dad, and I said, I think we found our guy, right? We found our tea guy. And the search is over, right? Because you had the passion, you had the zeal, you were inspired by the land, you came back to the land. It was like, he's all about, right? Everything that we're about, right? We love the land, we want to see this place flourish, and it was like radiating off of you, and then I could feel it, and I felt inspired coming away from that meeting. And so I feel like, that's the invitation that I think David is offering, that we want to offer, is right now, obviously, we said tourists can't come here to Israel. But that doesn't mean you can't tour Israel, right? Tour Israel through the flavors, tour Israel through experiencing it through your mouth, through seeing it, through the taste, through the touch. That's the invitation that I think you want to offer, and that we all
save yourself a plane ticket. Save yourself a bus ticket once you get here.
Yeah.
Travel Israel through the 6 flavors of Shalva tea. It's a start anyway. Hopefully, it will inspire you to come here when times are better.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Great to share
This was
an
incredible.
impromptu cup of tea. It wasn't planned. I'm really glad we did it that way.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice.